Hi, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi Kim, thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I have been talking about finances and private practice finances on my channel all this month. So it was really great to connect with you and be able to have this conversation because I love to give accurate advice. And so getting a professional in to talk about some of these things, I think is going to be really helpful to my viewers. So thank you so much. So I just thought I'd just quickly just give a quick story of how we kind of got connected. We have somebody in common who I've worked with in the past, and she reached out to me on LinkedIn and said that there was somebody she had recently met that was going to be doing bookkeeping specifically for therapists in private practice, and said that I needed to talk to you. So I was really pleased to get that connection and to meet with you, and we had a really lovely chat last time we met. So I thought, why not invite you onto the channel and give you the chance to talk to the audience and let them know what you're doing. So here we are.
Great.
So can you just first of all tell us how you got into bookkeeping and why you chose to work with therapists in private practice?
Yeah, so it's back in 2014. I was currently, or I was at the time, working in social care. And I I always wanted to kind of help people. So I decided to start going down a life coaching route. So I did a week course, thought I was qualified, started setting up a practice, and just realized I had no idea what I was doing. But while I was doing that, I really enjoyed like the planning element and the financial side of things. So I started doing some courses. Then I took some formal studying, and yeah, I got a job, and I've been working in the field ever since.
Awesome. And so why did you then decide, okay, well, I'm going to set up this company and I really just want to work with therapists in private practice? Where did that come in?
Well, uh, yeah, so I I had a bad episode of depression, and I hadn't talked about it with anybody. It wasn't really kind of how I was. I didn't really communicate feelings and stuff like that. And it got to a point where I I had enough, and like I just didn't want to be here anymore. So I engaged with counseling services then, and it made a huge difference. Like I didn't think it was going to help. Like I didn't go in there with any expectations. I didn't really see the point of talking to people. And I think I did about ten sessions, and I've been well ever since. So it's just something that I'm really passionate about now. And though I love finance, um, working for companies that are just there to make profit is not rewarding. It's not fulfilling. Like I need more, and I want to have a positive impact on the world. So this is how I want to do it.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's jump straight into the questions because we have had quite a few, so I want to get through as many as possible. So let's get started. So let's start with the first one. I keep hearing that I should have a separate business bank account, but I'm a sole trader, so don't I just need my personal one? Is that a big mistake, and what's the benefit of separating them?
Um, I mean, you don't have to have a separate business bank account, but it is a good idea. The main benefit really is it will reduce your admin time because you can just export your bank statements or have them as a feed into your accountancy software if you're using cloud accounting, and then you just reconcile those transactions, label the expenses, find the receipts, put them in a folder, job done. If you don't do that, you've got to manually go through your whole bank statement, deleting everything that's personal, and it just takes a lot longer.
Yeah, I find as well that people also, when they have like one bank account, for example, they might go to Tesco's and they'll do their shop and then they'll also get stuff for their practice. So say they're working
Hmm.
at home, they'll be like, oh, just buy some tissues and I'll buy a notepad and whatever. And that makes it even harder because then they've got transactions on their bank account that half personal and half work expenses, and then it's even harder to kind of reconcile
Absolutely.
those.
And if you're not doing it there and then, So say you don't do your bookkeeping until the end of the month, and you went to Tesco at the beginning of the last month, and you had a split bill, and it's a split bill, but what items were what? You don't always know. It's not always easy to find out.
Yeah. Also, I guess as people get a little bit more fancy and might want to have some kind of accountancy platform and things like that, you can sync it with your bank, right? And so that will make it even more easy for you to, if you've just got a business bank account, you can just sync it, and it makes it much more straightforward than having a personal.
Absolutely.
You probably couldn't sync a personal one, right? I don't know how that would work if you had transactions on your business.
I've used a personal bank account sync to accountancy software when I was first trialing out software years ago, and it let me do a bank feed from a personal account. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a business bank account, but it does have to feed into the software, because not all banks will feed into the software systems.
Yeah. So it doesn't need to be a business bank account, but we just would prefer separate bank account, right? So just
absolutely separate bank account would be first priority. Business bank account would be a bonus.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so next question. I try to log my expenses, but I always forget and end up with a pile of receipts at the end of the year. Is there a system you recommend for keeping track of everything without it becoming overwhelming?
Doing it as you go, having a structure within your Google Workspace, for example, and label your folders by month. Put in all the receipts for that month. Take a picture on your phone, upload it to Google. Done. If you've sent an email, download it, upload it. I think you can even send it from Google and email into a folder, so you can do it that way as well. And then, just keep on top of it. Do it every month, and you should be fine. Cloud accounting software is definitely going to make life easier, and I would combine that with receipt capture tools where you can just send them an email. Some you can even just send a WhatsApp, and most of them will have apps as well, so you can just take a picture on your phone and upload it straight to the app. So it makes it a lot quicker.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think the key there as well is not wait until the end of the year, right? And it's doing it as you go, even if that's monthly, if you just like you said with the emails, you can kind of send those as and when, but actually keep the track of stuff on more of a monthly basis rather than waiting a whole year, because that can get really stressful if you're doing a whole year's worth of bookkeeping in one go.
Yeah. For most practices, I would say if you upload your receipts to a folder as they come in, so they don't get missed, and then just reconcile it all once a month, you'll be fine. Okay,
so the next question is how to calculate your housing expenses when you're self-employed and working from home. So we were talking about this a minute ago, actually, wasn't we? Because I said, I would just use simplified, but you said, no, don't do that.
I mean, simplified expenses is simple. But I was doing a calculation for this podcast, or not podcast, for this YouTube video, and I did the calculation on mine. I didn't think there'd be that much in it, but on simplified system, I could only claim about £180 for the year, and on a reasonable method, which is the other method you can use, which is like a manual calculation, it was about £3,000 worth of allowable expenses. So it was a huge difference, and it really got me thinking, this is something I need to prioritize. There's lots of things you can claim for as well. So it's your phone, your internet, council tax, mortgage interest, or your rent, heating, electric, home insurance, and cleaning. They're all allowable. But it has to be calculated in a reasonable way for business use. And that's basically done on how many rooms you have in your house, main rooms, so like your bedrooms, your kitchens, your living rooms, exclude things like bathrooms and hallways, etc. How many hours you work in each of those rooms, and then how much personal time you spend in those rooms. And then the calculation then from there is with your qualifying expenses, you put in the whole amount of qualifying expenses, and it will do it proportionally from there. But realistically, doing this manually it's a painful process. I mean, I can do it, but it takes a long time. There are online calculators that just make it simple. So it's not too bad. All you need to do is keep a log of your times so you know how long you're spending. And if you're using, say, a room for work and personal use, you want to work out the ratios on that. So you want to work out what percentage of the time you're spending in that room for work and what percentage are you spending in that for personal usage, because that will be important when you go for those calculators. You'll also need to know all of your qualifying expenses for the year as well, the total. So it's advisable to do this once you're preparing to file your self-assessment, once you've done your year-end P&L.
Yeah, that actually sounds super complicated. That sounds really...
Yeah.
Once a year thing, right? So you just do it once and then you can just...
Yeah.
Put it into the calculator and it'll... But maybe we can link to some of those calculators you mentioned in the description. If there's any that you recommend, then we can link to that to help people out. But because it's such a massive difference, I think it is worth going to the pain of doing it once a year.
Absolutely. And if you've got a office in your house and you don't use it for personal use, it really simplifies the calculation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because then it would just be, I don't know, say you got four rooms, use one for an office only, then 25% of your expenses are going to be allocated to that room. So it's just total expenses times 25%, you know, so it becomes an easier calculation. But if you're using it for a split, then that's when a calculator really makes it a lot more manageable.
Yeah. But also, it's not just hours you're seeing clients, right? So for therapists and private practice, all the admin that they would be doing, any work that they're doing, even if they're just doing admin on the computer, if they are, you know, doing their invoicing, if they're even doing things like that, all the hours that they're working count. It's not just time where they're actually seeing clients.
Yeah, and I would go further and include things like CPD. So if you're doing your CPD, that's work time. You know, you need CPD, you need to stay relevant, you need to keep on top of your skills for your clients. That's work related. So make sure you're including that in your working hours.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so next question. I've been told I need to put aside money for tax, but I never know exactly how much. So is there a simple way to work this out so I don't end up short when the tax bill comes in?
Yeah, so there is a service on the government website called Estimate Your Self-Assessment Tax Bill, which will give you an estimate of what they think your tax is going to be. And then you can just put aside enough to cover you for when you get there. But if you're earning less than 50,000 per annum in profit, not income, profit, then if you put like 20% of your profit aside each month, then you'll have enough to cover your tax bill easily.
Yeah, would that include the NI as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 20% would cover those. Okay, that's cool. That's kind of what I would do, like 20 to 25%. But then obviously if it's over that, then it's better to use the calculator, right? Because then you're going to have different.
Yeah, when it becomes more complicated when you become a higher tax rate payer.
So I recently went full-time in private practice and I'm making more money now, which is great, but I'm also terrified of doing something wrong with my taxes. What do I absolutely need to be tracking so I don't get caught out later?
Yeah, so this really depends on your legal structure. I'm just going to assume that the person that asked the question is a sole trader. So you just need to track all your business income and expenses so that you can generate a profit and loss. So you've got the profit and your income and your expenses for when you do your self-assessment. It's also pretty important to keep an eye on your turnover. That's just for VAT registration because you don't want to get penalized for filing late or registering late.
Yeah. Do you think that therapists should send physical invoices? So obviously they're going to get payments coming in, so they have like a record of all the payments that have come in. Let's assume they're using like a separate bank account and all that kind of stuff. But do you think, or is there a rule where they should actually send clients physical invoices? Because I know a huge majority of therapists that don't do that.
I don't really know, to be honest. It depends if your clients need them. If you're working for insurance companies and things like that, you're doing it that way, then you might need to provide invoices. But for most people, um, it's probably not required. However, it is good practice. And if you've got cloud accounting software, it's super simple to do it. And even just with a template, as long as you're careful and you make sure you don't leave someone else's name on from using it before. I always recommend saving a new copy every time you do it, so you never override your master copy, and then that avoids that issue. But I would personally do it because I just think it looks more professional.
Yeah, but there's no like legal requirement.
No legal requirement.
I think that's good to know. That was just my own question to add in. Yeah, I think that kind of the next question kind of is already answered about people's bookkeeping being a mess and dumping everything in a folder. And we kind of talked about that already, about having separate folders for each month, which I really liked, and using Google Workspace or just like folders on your desktop is like totally fine too if you don't use that. Okay, so I don't know how much you know about medical insurance. I'm going to ask this question, but I can also add my thoughts to this too. I have a mix of self-paying clients and clients who are through insurance companies, and the payments don't always match up with my invoices. Reconciling can be a bit of a nightmare. Is there an easier way to manage this? So I can talk on that, but happy for you to, like, if you have any experience with that, and then I can.
I don't have experience with it in this sector at the moment, but I've had similar things with batch payments and not matching up. So it really depends on why the payments don't match and how you're currently managing it. If you're just getting a bank payment come in and you've got manual invoices all over the place, like, do you have a log of how much that it should have been? And it really depends how it's being managed. But yeah, it'd be great if you could shed some light on that one.
Okay, so I'll give you, so if it's backs payments, if you're just invoicing your clients and asking them to make a backs payment, then you're probably not going to get many mismatches, because you're going to invoice or tell the client how much to pay, they're going to pay. If they shortfall, it's because they're not going to see you for a session or something like that. But let's say you're invoicing through Stripe. Let's just take Stripe. So obviously Stripe are going to have fees, and also you're going to get, if a few clients pay on the same day, you're going to get a whole load of, a bigger payment come in. It's going to be less than you're expecting because of the fees. So what could somebody do kind of around that and reconciling their invoicing?
Yeah, so the first thing I always deal with when I'm doing those things is I will add the fees onto my total payment when I'm doing the calculation. I will add the expenses to to my expense platform. Generally, I'm using accounting software, so it's a little bit easier. But if you're using manual ledgers, then you just allocate it to an expense, and then just treat it as if it was the whole payment, and then you match off the payment offsets against it. Hard to really explain how to easily do it. Like, I can picture how to do it, but yeah, when you're getting multiple payments and things like that, using references is good. And I believe Stripe will show you who's paid what, and it will show you that before and after the thing. So use the Stripe portal, because Stripe's actually pretty good.
Yeah, and also what I do for my clients who use Stripe is we run the report at the end of the month, so that although, because sometimes people who are paying by Stripe are doing it via like an EHR like Xander, so then Xander will automatically say this payment's been made. But if we're doing it manually, then we'd run the report, and then we can match off, okay, this person, this person, we can match off the invoice. If we have an invoice log or some kind of log that we are matching them against. Also in Stripe, you can run an overdue invoice report, so you can see which invoices haven't been paid. So you can do things like that too. And with medical insurance, it can get a bit frustrating and tricky, because you will invoice, let's say we're just doing Bupa, you'll invoice Bupa for all of the Bupa sessions you had that week, and then you'll get remittance from them to say, these are all the invoices you submitted, these are all the ones we paid. And some of them can come up short, and they can come up short because the client owes excess, or they were out of policy. There can be a few reasons. Maybe you invoiced incorrectly as well, you might have used the wrong number or something like that. So it's just about making sure that you check those remittances regularly. So when you get them, or if you go to the system and download them, to actually check what you've invoiced has been paid. And I definitely recommend having a medical insurance log, because otherwise that can get really out of hand in terms of like what's been paid, what hasn't, and you're getting money in all the time, but you don't actually know if it's the right amount. So I would definitely say get a log. Unfortunately, it is manual. There's not really a way that you can kind of automate medical insurance in terms of, you know, payments and things like that. So yeah, I would say just have some kind of log, and then just make sure you're checking the remittances on a monthly basis, and that's going to help you make sure that you're not short. So that would be my advice with medical insurance. Okay, I recently signed up for Xero thinking it would make things easier, but I have no idea if I'm using it properly. If I have accounting software, do I still need a bookkeeper? So I feel like that's like kind of two questions. Not being able to use it properly, you know, that's about, I think, doing some kind of training on it, right? Like if there's training within the platform, or you can YouTube a lot of stuff to kind of learn, make sure you're using the system as it's supposed to be. But what would you say about using accountancy software and then having a bookkeeper or not needing one?
It depends. If you know what you're doing with your bookkeeping, you don't need a bookkeeper. You probably would benefit from one, but you know, that's just my bias. I think it saves people time. So Xero's great, and there are loads of resources for Xero. So if the viewer's got the time, just look at those resources and you'll learn what you need to do. If you've got simple bookkeeping and accounting needs, you'll be fine. But just make sure you connect your bank account with the bank feed, because that'll just automate things, that'll make things easier. Depending on the version of Xero you've got as well, you've probably got HubDoc included. That's a receipt capture tool. Use that, upload your bills to it, then go through HubDoc and label everything up, and then all you need to do is go into your bank feed, match everything off, and then anything that's not matched, you need to find a receipt for. Or you know, if we're talking about getting paid from clients, you'll see it in there as well. You'll see what's outstanding in the bill section, or in the invoice section. Sorry, but yeah, Xero is really good. It's highly recommended. It's what I'm going to be using exclusively.
Okay, cool. That's what I was going to say. Like, which one would you recommend? Because I know there are loads like QuickBooks and Sage and things like that. So I was going to ask you like which one you recommend for people.
Yeah, I have years of experience with Xero, and it's just a really good platform. I played around with QuickBooks a little bit, but I'm not as familiar. And they're very much the same pricing, so I'm just sticking to what I know best.
Yeah, I think that's best. Okay. So next question. I'm not at the stage where I can afford a bookkeeper yet, but I'd love to know what I should be doing on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis to keep things running smoothly. Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I would add daily or as and when it is. I would say upload your invoices and receipts into Google, as we discussed earlier. On a monthly basis, I'd probably run a P&L, but realistically, you probably want to do that quarterly. Just see how you're doing, but you don't need to do it. It's just good practice to just see where you are. And then annually, you need to do a P&L to do your self-assessment. That's really all you need to do. It's not much for sole traders. And calculate your expenses. Make sure everything that is allowable you're claiming for, because you know, I know that therapists don't price their services to what they're worth or the value they are. You know, a lot of people don't price things how they should be. So make sure you're claiming your expenses back to at least offset anything like that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Okay, this is quite a good one. What point does it make sense to switch from a sole trader to a limited company structure? I'm curious about how that shift could impact things like tax, income, and pension contributions, and whether it's something I should be planning for or holding off.
So with regards to the pension element of that, becoming a limited company means you when you pay your employees, you contribute to the pension as well. So that's an allowable expense for the business. So if you're a limited company and you're paying yourself a pension, then there's an allowable element for that. Generally, I wouldn't go a limited company for most people unless you're close to the higher tax point. So when you're approaching around the 50,000 mark, that's when you really want to be thinking, okay, I'm going to save money on tax by going limited, or more efficient in tax, should I say.
And when you talk about 50,000, that's profit, right? That's not revenue.
Yeah.
That's like how much you're taking,
yeah.
like how much your business is earning, because that's you.
Absolutely. The taxable element you're on, the 50,000 taxable element, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Okay, yeah. So the thing is, it's so funny because you hear like random numbers thrown around, and I've always heard like, yeah, 50,000. When you get to 50,000, that's when you should change, because you can save money on tax. Do you think, is there a big saving between that?
I mean, it starts at around that figure, so that's when it starts to be more cost effective, but it's not going to be much in it at that point. You know, it's when you're starting to pay like 40% on your profit, then that's when it's going to really be beneficial, because that's going to be a lot more, which is about, I think it's like 50,120 something, but you're only paying 40% on what's above that threshold. You know, it's not for the whole element, so you don't have to jump and do it straight away, and you don't even have to do it, but it will be more tax efficient once you're starting to pay that.
Yeah, but there are costs involved in becoming a limited company as well, because I have 2 limited companies now, and so obviously I've got double the cost of everything. But just like the other day, I just had to confirm that I'm the only shareholder and whatever. I had to like go through this confirmation statement or something and pay 34 pounds. And I'm like, why am I paying? Just to say, yes, I'm still the only shareholder and this is my address. And then I had to pay them again. It's like, why am I paying you to tell you this information? Well, not funny, annoying. And then costs involved, and then, you know, your company is easily searchable. So if you only work from home, you need to think about like, okay, well, what address is going to be visible to the whole world, things like that. So then you have a cost for like a virtual office, or, you know, there's little things that are involved as well. So if it's not, but then I guess it's like about speaking to a professional, right, and looking at all of the things to see, okay, is it worth moving?
Absolutely. So it becomes more tax efficient at that threshold, but it doesn't mean it's right for you.
Yeah.
Because there will be, like you said, additional costs and additional administration burdens. You know, like not only do you have to pay that £34 tax, the confirmation statement, but you have to fill it in.
Yeah.
And, you know, your accounting requirements are
to log in. That's the annoying thing. Remembering your password to log into all these government things. That was the
password managers.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I lose mine all the time, so it's in there now.
Yeah, you just want to have one master password for like everything, and then it definitely helps having Google Chrome password managers or LastPass or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So something else that hasn't come up, but we were talking about it earlier, is about making tax digital. And I think the reason that nobody asked that question, because I think if they knew about it, they would definitely have lots of questions and be a bit concerned about it. So can you just kind of explain what making tax digital is? And we're talking specifically to UK people now, but can you just explain like what it is and when it does take effect?
Yeah, so making tax digital is currently being rolled out to all self-employed people, and people like even people from property income with a income of more than £20,000 from their self-employment. It's not a hit for everyone yet. They're doing it in phases. So we're now up to the phase where from April 2026, those with a gross income of over 50,000 from self-employment and lettings, they will need to be using making tax digital tools to report their self-assessments. And then from 2027, it's going to be rolled out to those earning more than 30,000 annual gross income. There hasn't been confirmation for people that are earning 20,000 and more. And everybody underneath, I don't believe, is going to have that requirement. So if you earn less than £20,000 gross income a year, you won't need to worry about making tax digital.
Okay, so awesome. So can you just kind of explain what it is? Like, what does making tax digital mean for people?
Yeah, so it's basically about digitalizing taxes. And I know that seems quite a basic answer, but it just means that you will need to have your taxes reported to HMRC in a digital format. I'm going to need to get more information on what the exact minimum requirements are, because there was originally bridging software that you could use. So you could use like a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet and you could still do it that way. But I'm not sure if that's still applicable or whether they've scrapped that part of it.
Yeah, but basically there's a list on, because I've made a whole video on making tax digital last year, and there's like a link to the government website, and it says all of the different softwares that are currently
Yes.
not applicable. What's the word? They work basically.
Yeah,
allowed.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the simple thing with making tax digital to be compliant is just use cloud accounting software. You're going to be fine.
Yeah. And it's going to be like, it is actually easier to use those anyway, right? Like, than kind of doing it yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, even though like I sell a template, like I know that template's not going to be applicable in a few years' time, but it's a good bridging one to get people used to doing their bookkeeping on a monthly basis. Because I think if you're going from nothing straight to like Sage, for example, or Xero, sorry, sometimes that can be a really big jump, and actually having that bridge of like just having a system that you use every single month and get used to it, and then move into kind of like a digital platform can be a bit easier.
Yeah, I've been looking at so Xero offers some accountants exclusive plans which aren't really massively advertised, and they're about £10 a month, and that will allow you to have your bank feed connected to it, and then that simplifies things. So for £10 a month, it's well worth the investment. It will save you hours a week, or certainly at least hours a month. And I hope you're charging more than £10 an hour for your time.
Let's hope. Cool. Is there anything else that you kind of just wanted to give information on? Anything that we haven't kind of covered that you think would be useful for therapists to know that kind of hasn't been asked?
Not at the moment, but based on our previous conversation and the co-working side of things that you were talking about, that really got me thinking about developing like a community around bookkeeping and accounting for people. For therapists and counselors. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be starting that group soon. So I'm just developing some resources and stuff like that. So it'll be similar to what we spoke about. So, having a space where people can ask questions, doing the co-working, probably have a Facebook group as well, so people can ask questions on there and things like that, and just create a place where we can all just learn from each other, pick each other's brains, and just collaborate nicely. I'm saying so many weird words right now. I was thinking I could send a link to my rudimentary website that I finalized 10 minutes before this meeting, and just gather some information from people so that if they're interested in joining this group, it's going to be completely free. There's no charge for your viewers, and yeah, so if they want to join in, ask some questions, that'd be great.
Love that. Yes, we'll definitely put a link to that in the description. So that would be great. But if someone is listening and thinking, right, I just want you to kind of help me with this, have you sorted out your services yet for Focus in Private Practice, or is that kind of like an ongoing thing?
So I I've got some core services in mind. So I've done a bit of a list, but it will include every bookkeeping and accounting service therapists will need. So it'll be the bookkeeping, it will be training and accountancy software setup. So somebody that just wants one-time setup, then I'll set up the accounting software specifically for therapists. So I'll use ledgers that they will make sense. And yeah, then they can I'll do some training, and then they can do it as and how they please. And then if they get stuck, they can always come back to me and we can go from there. But yeah, I'm just trying to make things very accessible for wherever people are on their journey right now.
That's really great. So the best way to contact you is via your website at the moment, right? We'll give people
Yeah.
link. And then...
So ideally, if you want to join in, sign up for the group. It's just a little web form to get your email address and things like that. And then yeah, we'll start chatting and creating something beautiful.
Awesome. I love that. Antony, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and it was really, really useful. And I think that people are going to get a lot from this. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.